Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making this peekaboo bralette. It is cheeky, flirty and cute, so let's get started. Okay, so for this project I'm actually going to be using two different strands of cotton together. I'm going to be using this fine baby cotton from Hobby, and then I'm going to be using this silk ribbon cotton from, I don't even know where I got that one from. The reason I'm mixing these together is just because this is too thin to make my top from. And I've got a funny feeling that these two colors are just going to look beautiful for the ocean vibes theme that I'm going for, but you don't have to use two colors. You don't have to use ribbon cotton. There's no reason that I'm using this except that I think it's going to be a nice color. So you can use a 8-ply, a heavier weight acrylic, cotton, wool, whatever you want, any color that you want. It really doesn't matter. I'm also going to be using a 4mm hook. This is just, I just think a 4mm is going to go well with those two yarns together, but whatever yarn you're using, use the hook that's appropriate for the yarn that you're using. Okay, let's get started. So as I mentioned, I will be using these two yarn threads together as one thread. This means it might make it a little bit tricky for you guys to be able to see my stitches clearly because there's going to be two yarns in each stitch. And look, I do apologize about that, but I really do want to use these two yarns together, so I'm not going to change it. But just bear in mind, if you are looking at my stitches closely, you're going to see two strands of yarn in there. Alright, so to start we are going to make a slip knot with our yarn, and then we're going to insert our hook into that slip knot. Now we're going to make some chains. I'm going to chain 11 chains plus 2, but this is going to depend on the type of yarn that you're using, also the size of your breasts. So you want to make a chain that is going to fit from the base of your breast right up until your nipple, or just over your nipple really. So that might be 8, that might be 10 for bigger busted girls, that might be 14. Just chain and then hold it up against your breast right at the base where it folds over, and make sure that it can come up and at least to the center of the nipple, and that's a perfect height for you. Once you have your chains, I will meet you back here. Okay, so I have my 11 chains here. That's the perfect measurement from the bottom of my breast to the middle of my nipple. And then, as I mentioned, we're just going to add 2 more chains on top of that. So now I have 13 in total. What we're going to do next is we're going to do a double crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3. To do a double crochet, we yarn over, insert our hook into that 3rd chain, yarn over and pull through a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2 loops on our hook, and yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on our hook. And we're just going to do a double crochet into every chain all the way down until we reach the bottom. And this is going to be a little bit glunky, I feel, with these 2 yarns, so please forgive me, but just wait. I think it's going to look amazing. I'll meet you guys at the bottom when you have put a double crochet into each chain. Okay, so once you have finished your double crochets all the way back down to the end of that chain, what we're going to do from here, and sorry guys, I do need to take a minute And just apologize for this blister on my thumb. I know there's no way of hiding it in this video, and it does look pretty gross. So I'm really sorry that you have to be staring at that during this whole video, but I was shoveling dirt, a lot of dirt, yesterday at work, and the shovel gave me a blister, so I'm really sorry. Please try to ignore it. Okay, moving on. So once we've done all of those, go ahead and count and make sure that you have the exact same number as the chains that you made in the beginning minus 2. What we're going to do from here is we're going to do another 2 double crochet right into this end chain. Once we've done that, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to put another 3 double crochet right into this end chain. Once we have our extra 5 double crochets with that chain 1, we're going to start working down this side of our piece, and we're going to be putting a double crochet into each chain on this side. Now remember, we're working onto the back side of our chains here, so make sure that you're going into the bottom loop of the chains as opposed to going in to the top of these double crochet stitches. All right. Okay, so I'm putting a double crochet into the first chain, a double crochet into the second, and you just want to work a double crochet into each chain until you get down to the bottom and you have 1 chain remaining unworked. Okay, so once you've gotten your double crochets all the way down until you have 1 chain remaining, you are going to chain 1, turn your work, and slip stitch into this first stitch. Then you're just going to double crochet into the next stitch and every stitch after until you reach the peak. Now the peak is where we did our 2 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets. So once you get to that point, I will meet you there. Okay, so I'm coming up to my peak. I can tell it's my peak because where we chained that 1, it's left a very big space, bigger than what would be in between most of the stitches. If you'd prefer to use a stitch marker to mark your peak, that's absolutely fine. What you'll need to do is just pop your stitch marker into the chain 1 that you do between. I've just got 1 more stitch here to go into before I reach the peak. And I will do a double crochet into that one. And then in the peak, I'm going to do 2 double crochets. And then chain 1 and just another 2 double crochet into that peak. Okay, and then into the next stitch we're going to do a double crochet and into every stitch after until we reach the very bottom. I will meet you back down there. Alrighty, so now I am at the bottom of this side. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 2, turn my work, yarn over, and into the first stitch I'm going to put a double crochet. And I'm just going to put a double crochet into every stitch until I reach the peak. Once we reach the peak, I will meet you there. Okie dokie, so I've just come to my peak again. I can tell that it's the peak because there's that large space there. Into the peak I am going to do 2 double crochet, chain 1, and then another 2 double crochet right back into that same space. And then for this side we're going to do 1 double crochet into each stitch until we have 1 stitch left. So double crochet all the way down and into the second last stitch, and I will meet you there. Okay, so here I am at the end of this side. There's 1 stitch here that I'm not going to go into. Instead, I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, slip stitch into that first stitch, and then double crochet all the way back up until the peak. Once I get to the peak, I am going to put 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 more double crochets into that peak. And then you're going to work down this side, putting a double crochet into each stitch. Chain 2, turn your work, double crochet into each stitch up to the peak, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets into the peak, and then double crochet all the way down until the second last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work, slip stitch into the first stitch, and then double crochet all the way back up to the peak. And you're just going to repeat this around and around until this starts to fill out and become a good cup size to comfortably hold your breast. So every now and then you're going to have to hold it up against your breast and check the sizing. I made one earlier. So here's the cup that I made before, because we're going to need to make 2 cups. So can I just take a moment to say how lovely those 2 yarns are working together. I'm really, really happy. But when you're holding it up to your breast, this is the top of the cup and this is the bottom. All right, this is the little peekaboo section that we're going to have. So it's going to look a little bit now, but it will look great at the end. So center, top, side, bottom. And for mine to fit my breasts, I've done 7 rows. So you just keep going with those rows until you have something that will comfortably fit your breast. And then you want to fasten off. And then you want to go ahead and do the exact same thing to make a second bra cup. Hopefully this all makes sense. If it doesn't, go back, listen to what I said again. If it still doesn't make sense, let me know. Let me know how I can improve. But once you've got 2 cups made, I will meet you back here and we will start to make our top from them. Okie dokie, so once you have finished and you have 2 oddly shaped bra cups in front of you, we're going to start to make the chains that will go over our neck and tie this up. Now these chains, they're not going to be a halter style where they just tie around your neck. They're going to need to come over your neck, cross behind your neck, and then crisscross a few times behind your back. So they're going to need to be quite long. So we're just going to start on 1 cup and we're going to insert right into the peak and attach our yarn. And then we're going to chain, depending on the type of yarn that you're using and depending on the size and shape of your body will depend on how many chains you need to make. But me personally, for my body and for the yarn that I'm using, I'm going to chain 170. So I will meet you when we have finished our chains. Okay, so once you have finished your super long chain, I've got 170 here, you might have a different number, but we're all going to go ahead and just chain one more. And then we're going to do a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. And we're just going to go ahead and do a single crochet into every chain after. Yep, all 170 of them until we make our way back down to the peak of the bra cup. So go ahead and make a single crochet into each chain, and I will meet you when you get to the bottom. Okie dokie, so once you have made your super long chain and then single crocheted all the way back and you have reached the cup, we are just going to do one more single crochet right into that peak there. From here, we're going to slip stitch down the short side of the cup, so the side that we started making these decreases on. So we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch and slip stitch into every stitch until we reach where we started decreasing, and I will meet you there. Alright, so once you have slip stitched your way down this short side and to the last double crochet before we started decreasing, or our last decrease of that round, we're going to go ahead and grab our other cup, and we want to face it so that we have both of the decreased edges together on the inside. Now we're going to be working from this corner of the decrease to this corner of the decrease here. So we're going to connect those two with a single crochet. So what that means is insert your hook into the space after the last chain and before the decrease, and the same on this cup, yarn over and pull through a loop, and then yarn over and pull through both of those loops on your hook. And we're going to do this into that same space one more time, just to make sure they are securely connected. From this point, we're going to work up this bra cup with slip stitches all the way until we reach our peak. Once we reach our peak, we're going to once again make a chain, the exact amount of chains that you made for the last side, and then chain one more, and then slip stitch your single crochet your way all the way back down until you reach the bra cup, and I will meet you there. Okie dokie, so now you have finished your second chains and you've single crocheted all the way back down. We're just going to single crochet once more into that peak right there. Now what we're going to do is work down the outside row of this cup and make a picot stitch border. So to do that, we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch, slip stitch into the second, slip stitch into this third stitch, and then chain 3. Now we're going to slip stitch into the first chain of that chain 3, oh, working with 2 yarns. Let me try that again, sorry. So we slip stitch into the first chain of this chain 3, and then we slip stitch into the next stitch along the side of that cup. Slip stitch into the next 2, and then chain 3, slip stitch into the first chain, and then slip stitch into the next stitch of your cup. Slip stitch into the next 2, chain 3, and we're just going to continue this picot stitch all the way until we get to the last stitch of this cup. So if you end up with an uneven number on your cup and it doesn't quite work out, just make the last stitch or the last 2 stitches a slip stitch for when you get to the corner, and I will meet you there. Okay, so I've just finished my last picot stitch. I've got 2 stitches left on this side, so I'm just going to slip stitch into the both of them. And then what I'm going to do is make another chain. And this chain is to take your bikini top from the cups and start to make its way around the back. So you don't want this to go all the way around your back and connect. We need some space to weave up that corset style. So pretty much you just want to make this chain from the side of where your cups would finish, around your side ribs, and just to the point of where it's coming to your actual back. And that's going to give us a lot of space to work with to make a beautiful open corset lace-up style. So go ahead and chain, and then hold that bikini cup up to your body and find out what's the right amount of chains to have that just come onto your back and off your side. Once you're done, I will meet you there. Okay, so I've just chained 25. That's good to fit around to my back. So now what I'm going to do is just fasten off and cut my yarn. And then I'm going to reattach my yarn into the peak of the other side. And yes, look, I know there's a lot of cutting and reattaching happening here. I am truly sorry for that. I am just making this up as I go. I didn't really know what I was going to do today. I was just super inspired by these 2 colors together. So forgive me if you're watching this and you can figure out a more seamless way to do this instead of cutting and attaching, then you are more than welcome to do so. But for the purpose of this video, we are going to reattach our yarn right into the peak of this other bra cup. And then from here, we're just going to slip stitch into the first stitch along, the second stitch along, the third stitch along, and in that third stitch we're going to chain 3, insert into our first chain, make a slip stitch, and then slip stitch into the stitch after on the side of our cup. So we've got 1 picot stitch, slip stitch into the next 2 stitches on the cup, chain 3, insert into the first chain, make a slip stitch, and then slip stitch into the next stitch on the side of the cup. Continue this picot stitch pattern until you reach the corner, and then go ahead and chain the same amount of chains that you chained on the other side to make this reach around your back. Okay, so I have just finished my chain of 25 on the edge of this bra cup. So I'm just going to go ahead and chain 2 extra, and then into the third stitch from, or the third chain from the hook, I'm going to put a half double crochet. So to make a half double crochet, we are going to yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over and pull through a loop. So we have 3 loops on our hook, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. And we just want to be putting a half double crochet into every stitch along, or every chain along, until we get back to where our chains meet our bra cup. So, oh my goodness, I can't talk and crochet at the same time, but you do the right thing. I'll stop talking and I will meet you there. Once you have reached the end of your chains and have come back to where your bra cup starts, you just want to continue doing these half double crochets into every stitch you can find. Now, once we get down to the bottom of this bra cup, they're not really stitches per se, they are row ends. So if you find it a little bit tricky to distinguish where your rows are at this point, just try and pop one into every space. Oh, I'm sorry, try and pop 2 into every space where these double crochet stems, not stems, what do we call them? Where these double crochets are. So for example, here is 1 double crochet. I've already put 1 in there, and I'm going to go ahead and put another half double crochet into that space. Here is the next double crochet, so I'm going to go ahead and put 1, 2 half double crochets. There's the next one, and so on and so forth, and that should tidy up the bottom of your cup pretty well. Keep doing that until we reach the center of our cup, so the area where we first started decreasing. Once you get there, stop and I will let you know what to do next. Okay, so once we come to the middle of our bra cup and we get to this area where we started decreasing our cup, this is where we want to leave this peekaboo gap. So from here, we're going to need to make a chain to connect to the other cup. So this is where you're going to have to count how many rows you actually decreased on each cup. So for me, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 plus 7 is 14. And in order to make this a little bit more peekaboo-ish, a little bit more, just a wider area there in between my breasts, I'm going to go ahead and add another 10 on top of that. So I'm going to chain in total 24. But this is where you need to count how many rows you decreased, times that by 2 to equate to 2 cups, and then add a modest amount in order to increase the space that you have between your breasts there. Then go ahead and chain that number. Hopefully that made sense. Obviously I'm not a maths teacher, for good reason. But I'll go ahead and make those chains, and when you're finished I will meet you. Okay, so I have just chained my 25. You've just chained whatever number you calculated to connect these two cups. So from here we just want to make sure our chain is flat and that there are no twists, and then we want to slip stitch right into the center bottom of the second cup, so just where we started decreasing. Now into that same space where we just did a slip stitch, we're going to do a half double crochet. Oh. Don't look at me. Alrighty, and from this point we're just going to do 2 half double crochets into every row end until we get to this side. Okay, so once you are coming back to the edge of your cup and you have put 2 half double crochets into every stitch, including the stitch that you connected your chain to. So here, this is where my chain is coming from, so I still need to put 2 half double crochets right into there. Oh goodness. And then from here we're just going to do 1 half double crochet into each chain until we get to the end. Okie dokie, once you have reached the end of this chain and you've put a half double crochet into each of them, you're going to chain 2, turn your work, and then you're going to work a half double crochet into each stitch all the way to the other side. So you're going to work a half double crochet along here and then along the bottom of the cup, and then when you get to these chains that we made, you're going to work a half double crochet into each chain and then 1 half double crochet all along the bottom of the cup and a half double crochet all the way to this end. Once you get to this end, I want you to chain 2 again, and I want you to work another row of half double crochet all the way to the other end. So essentially we want 3 rows of half double crochet, except here in the middle there will only be technically 2 rows. But go all the way along, chain 2, turn, come all the way back, and I will meet you when you're finished. Okie dokie guys, so once you have finished your 3 rows of half double crochet, sorry about the noise if you can hear that, my neighbour's working on something, but it won't last for long because the good news is we're really nearly finished. So we've just finished our 3rd row of half double crochet on this, and what we're actually going to do is do 2 single crochet into each row end along the edge of this band, along the edge of this band. So into this first row end, I'm going to do 1 single crochet, and into the same row end, I'm going to do another single crochet. 2 into the next row end, 2 into the next, and then 2 into this last little tight one. From here we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and then we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each of those stitches that we just made all the way along. So from here we're just going to chain 1, turn our work. We're going to do a single crochet into the first 2 stitches. Then we're going to chain 4. And then we're going to skip 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Into this 5th stitch I'm going to do a single crochet. And into this last stitch I am going to do a single crochet. Then chain 1, turn your work. Into the first 2 stitches we're just going to place a slip stitch. Once we get to this chain 4 space, we're going to put 5 single crochets into that chain 4 space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then just slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. And then we're back to the corner. So what we've done here is just created this little reinforced loop in order to be able to tie our top together at the back. Once we have finished the loop on that side, we've come back to our corner, and I want you to chain 3. Now we're going to do a row of double crochet into these row ends and then all the way across to the other side of the top. So go ahead and pop. So go ahead and pop 1 double crochet into that row end, 1 double crochet into the next row end, and then go ahead and put 1 single double, 1 double crochet into every stitch all along until we each reach the end of the other side, and I will meet you there. Okay, so once you get to the end of that row of double crochets, you're just going to continue around to this edge, putting 2 single crochets into each row end. Chain 1, turn your work, and put 1 single crochet into each stitch that you just made. From here we chain 1, turn our work, put a single crochet into those first 2 stitches, and then chain 4, skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, into the 5th stitch, place a, oh, that's not the 5th stitch, into the 5th stitch, place a single crochet, and then we're just going to do a single crochet into the next 2 stitches down, chain 1, turn your work, slip stitch into the first 2 stitches, first 3 stitches in my case, sorry, and then into that chain 4 space we're going to do 5 single crochet all into that space. Slip stitch into the next 2 stitches, and then, my friends, you want to fasten off, cut your yarn, weave in your ends, and you are officially finished. It's a beautiful little top, I think, a little bit cheeky, but still lovely. So if you would prefer to have a bit of a wider band going around your underbust, when we get to that point, you can just keep going, keep making round rows of half double crochet or double crochet until you get to the width that you want. If you go super wide, like let's say you double this band, you are going to want to add another loop to be able to tie into, just so that the tension's evenly spread when we lace this up. So yeah, if you go too much wider, make sure that you go ahead and add another loop onto the back to tie it up. But I'm looking at this and I kind of think I'm going to keep going. I think I'm going to make a dress from this. Unfortunately, I haven't really figured it out in my head yet, so it won't be included in the video, but it's these colors. I am just absolutely in love with this color combination. I am lucky enough to live on the Great Barrier Reef in tropical North Queensland, Australia, and these colors just remind me of some of those reef shallows. It's just really beautiful. So yeah, I think I'm going to keep going and make a dress, but I want to thank you for joining me up until this point. Hopefully you have got something in front of you that you are happy with. If you are comfortable, I'd really love to see what you've made. If you want to head over to Instagram and tag me in your photos at Hazy Maisie Creations, I'd love to see them. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you for the next video. Have a beautiful day, people.